Good evening everyone and welcome to a big one here at SimRacing International as round 8 of our GT3 Season 13 Championship takes us to the Daytona International Speedway for a 60-minute race under the floodlights tonight. We've got a circuit combining the big banked oval sections. We've got an infield road course for the drivers to deal with, and that added complexity of running in the dark gives us a circuit where confidence starts to play a massive role. Then leading you through all of tonight's action, as always, is myself, Joseph Glass, alongside my commentary partner, Mr. Dara Thacker. And Dara, night race, first one that we've seen all season, tends to add an extra layer of drama, a bit of a change to what the drivers are used to in running in the light in the daytime. And with that Pro Class Championship momentum swinging back and forth over the last few weeks, tonight is the perfect chance for a few of those drivers to build some big momentum as we head into the final couple of rounds.
Yeah, and it's a circuit that isn't particularly difficult on paper. It's not got the most amount of turns, it's not got the most complicated infield of all time, and it's one that drivers will know well. You know, we do it to death, albeit in, what now, 5 months' time in January, but it is a track that drivers will know inside and out, and particularly in GT cars, it's one that we visit quite often. So this could be an important one, and I think times are going to be really tight here. Qualifying could be crucial, and the differences between a front row start and the mid pack could be very minimal indeed. And with the championship battles we have, particularly in Pro, I think it's going to mean that we're going to see some interesting swings tonight at the back end of this championship.
Absolutely. Then our helicopter doing a good job of tracking the championship leader in the elite class, Anders Myhre, as they and he set off on the early laps in this qualifying session. But before we get there, let's take a look at the standings as always as we enter the final couple of rounds here in season 13 then. So that man that we just had up on the screen, Mr. Anders Myhre, with a solid rounded 750 points off the back of his 5th straight victory in this championship, 6 overall, and we keep referring back to that one in Bathurst that has prevented him from making it a clean sweep so far across the opening 7 rounds. Brandon Dyer still hanging on there in second place, albeit 223 points away, and with only 300 points left on offer in this championship, it's nearly all said and done for the Norwegian Ferrari driver. Nils Weber gets himself into the top 3 for the first time this season, a second podium for him last week around Le Mans. Great driving by he and many others, but that sees him nicely now into the top 3. He's got to look over his shoulder though, because Ian Stitchbury is coming in hot in behind. He's strung together some good results for the first time this season after getting himself on the scoring sheet around Bathurst with that victory at the expense, of course, of the championship leader. Milton Tomlinson Dennis, the man who's been chasing Anders as best and as much as he could over the last 2 months or so. He finds himself 5th now, missed the race last week, which has really cost him. He's down from 2nd and he has to settle for a spot inside the top 5. Joris Peters Weem next, a driver that we've seen quite a lot of over the course of this season. Had a really good start, tapered off slightly, but he's back to his best. A couple of P6s on the board over the last few weeks for the only BMW inside the top 12. Sees him with enough points for 6th. Kieran Sharp, double DNF, making his way back down the order, starting for him 300 points for the only Lamborghini on our field, on the entire field. And he's been chased joint actually on points with Daniel Pillman, teammate of course of Nils Weber. We saw lots of the NJB Performance Mustangs out there at Le Mans this time last week. Good performance from him as well. Richard Simnor missed last week and DNF'd the week before, so he too heading further down the order. And Andrew Pike staking his claim just inside the top 10, 7 points ahead of Andy Jones, who's had a hit and miss season so far. Only attended 3 rounds, and that's enough to see him on our top 12 sheet. And Lewis Kenyon went from 0 to hero and back to 0, double DNF for the Ferrari driver inside top 12 of the elite class.
Over we go then to the Pro standings, which has really given us a lot to talk about over the course of the season, and it's not been as tight all season long as it is now. Danny Phillips, 3 wins on the board, but no other finishes inside the top 7. It really does feel like it's win or bust for him when he drives on a Thursday night. He leads the championship after that win at Le Mans last week. he puts himself 5 points ahead of Chris Jennings. But, I mean, after the display that Danny had to pull himself back to the front after qualifying on pole and dropping to the back of the order, he's going to be riding on a wave of confidence, I think it's fair to say. So 5 points between Phillips and Jennings at the top. They're both from the McLarens. And if anybody wants to catch, they're going to have to do a lot of catching. And Sam Hockley is 100 points behind our championship leader in P3, but he had his best finish of the season at last round at Le Mans as well, so he could be riding a bit of a wave too. Bobby Moss is 100 points behind second. So in a way, we've got almost a tandem battle, whether your points tally starts with a 5 or a 4 for first and second and third and fourth. And that's Bobby Moss in fourth, who's been one of the more consistent drivers over the course of this championship. It's been a struggle for Jamie Bardwell in the last few weeks, but he's still inside the top 5 if he wants to try and push on. John Brayton back to the Barbecue Bread Racing team is up into P6 after, again, some consistent results from the last few weeks. Lewis Hammond, no podiums, but 3 top 6 finishes. Sees him in 7th, and he's not a million miles away from the top 5. Adam Lynch is 8th after a P3 last week, and Adam Smith, the tale of the two Adams, as they just have 300 points apiece. They'll be looking to try and move up from there, or at least consolidate their top 10 standings position. Mav Gardner, he's had a season punctuated by 2 podiums and 2 second places for the TSRC driver. He will go from 10th tonight in the championship. Jan Janczyk, he's come into a bit of form. He didn't finish inside the top 10 in the first 3 races of his season, and he hasn't finished outside the top 10 in the next 3 races of his season. So tale of 2 halves for him. And then Hayden Ahmed, of course, who wasn't here at Le Mans last week, but his most recent result was a win. See if he can move up the order with another good result if he's here tonight.
Yeah, of course, Jan Janczyk, first time he's been up on the top 12 throughout the entire season. He joins Lewis Hammond, of course, who was left last week when Sam Hockley got his first podium. It was just Lewis out there in the top 12 without one, but now he and Jan have something to aim to, and again, that adds to the major competitiveness, the competition that we see in this class. So, let's have a look at the team standings then. I can hear the guys are really flying out there, and we're having some good lap times and some competition actually toward the front of the class. So before we head back to trackside, let's take a look at this. It's the 2 MRC Moonshiner Racing Club teams who are looking over their shoulders a little bit at the 2 DXT Magenta and Cyan teams, of course. It's about 100 points apiece, less between the second 2 teams there, but yeah, not that much, plenty of points left on offer. Not that much of a big gap for any of these guys to try and overcome. So we'll have to see how that unfolds. We've got some good names up there in split A. We've got Danny Phillips and Jan Stitchbury, of course, up here with us as well. So we've got some guys that we can keep track of in the overall standings. Darkwing still doing very well indeed. 911 points. They'll be trying to get to 1,000 before the end of the season. It's the first of our TSRC racing teams next. Andrew Pike, Kieran Sharp, Craig Twardock and Bobby Moss. Adam Smith and Jack Shields doing well as well, of course. Let's not forget it's only the top 2 in each team that score points every week. So if you're relying on the same team, the same drivers every week, it's slightly harder to be in those better positions. And the Darkwing Titans and the STL team down there in 10th doing a very good job indeed. Then it's the first of our NJB performance teams. Daniel Pillman, Nils Weber and Sven Barrett, just a few points shy of the top 6. Chaps Motorsport, good podium on the board for Sam Hockley. Hayden Ahmed getting his first win of the season as well a little bit earlier on, sees them with points good enough inside the top 9. And rounding out our top 10 is that STL team of Mark de Vries and Menno Blum. So let's head back to trackside then, because we only have 15 minutes or so left of this session, about halfway through at the moment. And at the front of the order, Dara, this time it is not Anders Myhre, it's Kieran Sharp in that Lamborghini. So the man who has really fallen out of form over the last 2 weeks, round 6 and round 7, both failing to finish. At the moment, he's doing everything that he needs to in that Lamborghini. And Patrick Falconer, I'm not sure, was Patrick in the Lamborghini? I don't think so. So we have 2 Lamborghinis out there on the circuit with us tonight, Dara, and one of them is losing the way.
Kieran Sharp's finding a bit of pace at the start of this session, and like I said at the top of the show, I thought it would be quite a close qualifying session. It is indeed. It is 100 seconds for a lap here, but I keep going about it, and I think about it all the time, and I keep mentioning it, but I talk a lot about dead time in races, and there's certain tracks where, when you've got a timed race particularly, time can just evaporate from you, and this is particularly one of those circuits. We spend so much time on the oval where you can't, particularly qualifying, gain or lose realistically anything. That yes, it's a 100-second lap, but realistically it acts a little bit more like a 1-minute lap. So you're going to see lap times that are much, much tighter. And coming off the back of Le Mans last week, which was of course a 4-minute lap with a lot more turns in it, we see some bigger caps in qualifying. It's a bit of a culture shock, Joe.
It is then, it is. So let's see, Anders looks like he's setting himself up nicely for a lap here, which means it's the perfect time for us to ride on board with our Elite Class Championship leader. Down into turn 1. Difficult on the brakes because you've always got a little bit of steering lock on, but as soon as you get the speed down, the car tips in nicely, which it did to the left-hand side for Anders there. Get yourself through that little snaky section, then you head into the first 180, the International Horseshoe. Again, difficult to get it slowed down. Look out for cars lunging up the inside, potentially during qualifying, but mostly during the race, and be careful on traction. Anders not flying on this lap, still warming up his tyres as he heads down through turn 4. We'll be flat out during qualifying this and wait for the track to break up on the left. Get on the brakes. We'll see differing lines to this section. Some drivers like to keep it tight, others like to go for more of a V and attack a straight line on the brakes and then turn it in a little bit later on. You can really afford to push the limits on the entry there on the right hand side, making absolute full use of the space available to you. And the same again, we'll see some drivers cutting that entry a little bit short there up onto the banking. Some like to carry the speed and go the long way around. If you're able to pick up a tow during the race, or even more importantly during qualifying to this section, that's going to get you a nice little advantage, something that I'm sure these guys will be trying to coordinate, maybe not necessarily within their teams, just by looking out there on the track map into Le Mans chicane. Then pretty tricky at full speed, of course. Anders not going anywhere near full speed, safely on his outlap, but a good one to watch out for. Big place to gain time, also a critical place to lose time. If you mess up that second apex through the right hand corner, that's going to mess up your run through the entire final quarter of this lap. One more banking section, bring it back down to the left, hug the apron line there on the inside and wait for the line.
Yeah, it's a lap time that again, he's got to find 200 somewhere, and I'm sure he'll be able to do it, or he'll at least know where he can find that time in his Ferrari, maybe starting the lap time this time by. And still 12 minutes to go, so, you know, quite a long time for these drivers to get a good lap time in. Still a good, at least 5 lap times to make a set, so more than enough time to get a clean run in. Interesting that we have Hockley up there again towards the front. Danny Phillips struggling a little bit. Jennings there in 6th as well, so they're a little bit further back. That's allowing, I think it'll give Hockley a bit of a confidence boost, and I wonder if we can, well, actually that was the job there in showing the different times. Of course, last week we had pro drivers fighting, you know, in the top 5. Hockley's time at the moment is good enough for P7 overall. There we go, thank you, Joe, as it snaps into place. But you've got 3 of them together, Hayden Ahmed kind of up there as well, and then that big gaggle of cars. That'll be the important difference between the guys that are going to feel very good in the pro class and those that feel like they have a little bit more to do. Because even though Danny Phillips, particularly championship leader, is well inside the top 10 in his class, he's 14 places further back than Hockley at the minute. Quite pleasing.
That's, of course, a complete contrast to what we saw last week. Danny Phillips starting on the front row of the grid alongside his fellow elite class, well, not fellow elite class, but alongside an elite class driver, which is something that we haven't seen all season. So I'm expecting a little bit more from Danny, of course. Only 1 second away from provisional pole. Speak of the devil, he's now 9/10 away from provisional pole. And if we swap back here, he's now within 3/10 of pole in class, of course. Max Wheeler, the closest driver there, he's just come back out of the pit lane, so he's on his outlap as he heads over the Le Mans chicane in that lovely Audi. I'm loving the livery that he's got on there, and I'm a big fan of that noise as he heads up onto the banking. So the shortest gap to pole that we have here tonight, 6/1000ths of a second to find. He's probably not going to go straight on a flyer because it's pretty difficult to get the tyres up to temperature quickly around here with these long straights. It might take them a few laps just to find that temperature that they are looking for. And it's Myhre still looking for it. Milton, Tomlinson, Dennis the same. Both of those drivers within 1/10 of a second. Pit lane for Tomlinson Dennis. He's going to get some more fuel in the car and go again. I'm sure that all 3 of those drivers will know they have more time in hand. It's a pretty big jump down toward the likes of Twarlock and Stitchbury, who are basically 5/10 away, and everybody else slowly adding on another 10th. Before we get down to Jared Love, 1.5 seconds the difference. Pretty similar, actually, looking up and down the elite class and the pro class times. Gaps throughout the top 15 shared reasonably. I think in this instance, Anders Myhre is halfway through the lap. Let's watch him as he heads. I think he's going to head into the international, into the Le Mans chicane. Here he goes.
He's got the left-right-left combination to come, trying to keep the lines tight. Don't bounce over those curves. They're going to spit you out. He just about rides them, but nicely enough that he won't have ruined the lap time. Somehow, iRacing manages to fit 5 sectors around this lap, despite the fact that it's not the longest, is it, in the entire world? He's riding very, very high through the banking to try and get the best run off of it to the line. That's not necessarily a bad idea. You can see him running right down just to gain the speed, from the aid of gravity. Has he got anything to try and disrupt Kieran Sharper at the top of the order? It doesn't look like he's improved on this lap time. And in fact, I don't even think it's valid, so he won't have, this one won't have counted. I'll have to go again, and decided to tick down, but still in P2, and he's got that huge shaft speed. He's not going to be worrying, is he, really?
Hayden Ahmed got himself within 4/100ths of a second of pole position. He's going to try to chase down Sam Hockley, but as he crosses the line, he's 3/10ths of his personal best. Going to need, well, not quite half a second, but he's going to need to find half a second on that previous lap if he is going to improve. Next across the line is James Foster. He's right down toward the bottom of his class. Marginal improvement for him into the top 18. Andrew Pike in a similar position, 14th in the elite class. Doesn't look like he's improving too much, as he doesn't improve on any of his personal best sectors across any of the 5. Craig Twardock, 4th at the moment. He's got the biggest job to do to try and close the gap toward the top 3. Jared Love, I think that is, and behind him has got a massive toe as they head across the line. Is he going to be able to shave off a few tenths? No, he's not. The exact same lap time he'll have to continue to rely on. Looking down there, Dara, no one is really lighting up those sectors. Jamie Bardwell has set a personal in the final sector as he crosses the line. Chris Jennings struggling as well. Seems like they're not getting too much change down there.
No, it doesn't seem like there's going to be too many more improvements necessarily. Jennings, a little improvement in sector 4 of 5, and Anders Myhre with 2 purple sectors. So he's going pretty quick. Chris Jennings is going pretty quick. Keep an eye on the timing tower. Jennings will be first as he comes to the line. Did he jump up the order? No. What about Anders Myhre? Can he improve to the front of the field? Yes, he can. He's improved by exactly a tenth of a second. And he's turned a 200th deficit into an 800th lead. Couldn't remember what the other word was there. But he's now in front, and he has provisional pole. 6.5 minutes to go. Can anyone dislodge him?
Yeah, he's gained about a tenth of a second there. Net to take provisional pole position here. So he's got to now see if Kieran Sharp has a response. Kieran is out there on track. I believe he's been out there on track for some time as well, so his car should be feeling pretty good under him. He is approaching, I believe, down toward the International Horseshoe, not the International Horseshoe, sorry, the Le Mans section. No, he's already cleared that. He's on his charge, and look at this, Dara. He's got that Porsche in front of him. Just going to be within range, I think, to get a slight toe. Not going to make it easy as he takes him all the way around the banking. Is there going to be a response? Is there going to be an improvement? No, there is not. That's massively off the pace, so that is not a representative lap by any means by the man sharing the front row with the championship leader. He will go again, and we've now got to beg the question, is this Porsche going to become a hindrance, or is it going to be perfectly placed to give him a toe? It looks like under braking it's going to cause him a bit of a hindrance in the infield section.
Yeah, it does look like that. That's not ideal for Kieran Sharp. Right through the most important corners of the lap as well. He is not what he needs to be seeing at the minute. But he'll have to try and adapt somehow. Whether he just decides this lap's a write-off and backs off and tries again, we'll wait and see. But there aren't too many improvements. Danny Phillips has jumped up to 5th in the pro class, a couple of tenths off of Sam Hockley's time. It's a good improvement, important improvement for the championship leader. He's now ahead of his closest rival, Chris Jennings, which is, I think, the most important thing for him at the moment. Anders Myhre, has he just set exactly the same lap time again? I think he has.
He has.
So he set 2 times good enough for pole.
Yeah, what is interesting is the car ahead here is actually his teammate. So not the best set of coordination between, that is, Bobby Moss and Kieran Sharp. Sam Hockley still leading the way. Hayden Ahmed sets a good time, good enough to take pole by 1/1000th of a second. I saw the purple sector flash up on the screen there, tried to find him on the timing page, and here we go, the Chaps Motorsport driver who has one victory to his name. A little bit of a surprise victory that I think it's safe to say a little bit earlier on in the season around the Hockenheim ring. Now he's on for pole position again. He's popped his teammate down there. He's going to share the front row of the grid, it seems, Dara, but 1/1000th of a second, 2/1000ths of a second actually, if you look at the actual lap time between the Chaps Motorsport drivers. So far so good. 4 minutes to go. Drivers are only going to have another 3 or 4 laps to improve, and so far it's a front row lockout for the 2 Chaps Motorsport cars.
Norman's last race he won. Sam Hockley's last race he finished in P2, so there's a nice little bit of synergy there. And the 2 drivers, I think they're going to be delighted and probably chuckling to themselves. There's that little margin between them as they work their way towards the end of this qualifying session. Max Wheeler's coming to the pit lane. Could that be his session done? We'll have to wait and see. But it's going to take a special lap to upset them at the front. James Paisley Knight jumps into the top 10 just. If he was 100th slower, he would have been outside of the top 10, but such is the tightness of some of these gaps, he's 9th for the time being.
Yeah, improvements all around for Chaps Motorsport, going well, and Hayden Ahmed is going faster again. Sadly for him, it's Sector 2 and Sector 4 that are letting him down, but he's somehow improved in the opening sector across his entire class once again. He set a purple sector when he took pole position this time last lap. He's set a purple sector 1 again as he charges down there toward the line to cut the beam. Are we going to see an extension at the front of the order? No, we are not 2 tenths away from an improvement. Wesley Van Rijn, last at the moment, has set a lap time, but not a competitive one, and he's improving. Simon Clifton taking the fastest 3rd sector. This is going to be a jump up the order for Wesley. From 20th up to 13th goes that Dutch McLaren. Great job by Wesley to get himself a little bit higher up the order.
Yeah, good to see him improve towards the end of this session. Andrew Pike could be one to jump up the order. Sharp's just finished. Pike's gone P13.
Ah, with the toe.
Yeah, exactly, with a toe and with a slightly improved run, of course. So from his teammate Kieran Sharp, both working together. Nice to see as well that Kieran, despite the fact he's running towards the front, isn't going to take all the toe for himself. Nice to see that there's a nice agreement between them. Brandon Dyer can't improve that time by only a couple of tenths off of his previous best. Danny Phillips, though, can he improve? Championship leader in the pro class. 2 tenths away for the time being. What's it going to be? Or he improves by a tenth, but he stays where he is. But he's getting ever closer to the top 4.
Yeah, he's really going to... Well, it's going to have to be now or never, more or less. I think he will just get round for, this attempt and another if he's got the fuel on board to see him over the line. I was going to say earlier, when we talk about the TSRC drivers exchanging toe, of course, it was Moss to Sharp, and then Sharp behind to his teammate. I forget who that was. However, what I was going to say was, you made the point that Sharp's not trying to take all the toe. He's obviously only 8/100ths away from pole position. Does he potentially feel like he's got nothing left in the tank? And maybe he's happy just to sit behind Anders Myhre. He knows that Anders is going to be quicker over the race run, I'm sure. So maybe he can take advantage, sit in the toe, try and stay with him for as long as he can. And that might turn out to be a pretty valuable strategy, of course. Only 60 minutes tonight as well, so all the drivers will hopefully be able to get away with just a one-stop tonight, and maybe Sharp can make it work from the front row.
There's definitely a consideration to make, actually, because such has been the dominance of Anders Myhre. But I think he's not really been in this position all season long. Had as good of a chance as this. You'd think he'd really want to push forward, but very much respectable to see him give the toe to his teammate. Bobby Moss improved. Goodness me, the top 3 split. It says 2,000 on the tower, but the times say 3,000 between them. But there's 8,000 between the top 4. I've never seen the front 2 rows as close as that, even at Daytona. That's incredibly tight. And I mentioned it at the start that it'd be close. I didn't think it'd be that close.
No, I don't think anyone could have predicted to have 4 drivers within 8/1000ths of a second. It would be kind of nice if it stayed that way, albeit it would be nice to see a couple of them find that extra inch across the line, which would see them potentially go from 4th to 1st in just a second. So qualifying coming to an end. Anyone who's just crossed the line will be able to run again, but we have about half the field, 36 drivers with us tonight. We have about half the field in and half the field out. Ryan Stitchbury is going to be one of the next drivers to cross the line, in behind Chris Jennings, who improves in the final sector. He needs a little bit of time, only found 3/1000ths of a second there to improve on his personal best time, but not anymore. Ryan Stitchbury is not going to find any more time. Wesley Van Rijn next across the line in his McLaren. We saw him move from last to 13th in class. That's 27th overall. He's going to come down toward that apron and he's going to take the line. He's probably up on his time unless Sector 3 and Sector 4 were incredibly bad, especially as he gets a good exit out of the Le Mans chicane. Is that going to be an improvement? No, it's not. And that will be it for him. Bobby Moss, third at the moment, needs 2 1,000ths of a second. And it looks like he's on for a good one here, Dara.
He does. Is there any improvement right at the end of the session? He doesn't need much, does he? Goodness me.
Wow,
he does find the improvement, 800ths worth of it. And Bobby Moss steals pole unless Danny Phillips can take it away from him as the final driver to cross the line.
Yeah, Danny Phillips needs a massive exit. Well, he will have needed a massive exit out of the chicane if he's going to try and improve here. He needs a purple final sector, really. Who knows what Sector 2 and 4 have done for him. Sector 1 was okay, Sector 3 was the best, and Sector 5 is the best as well. Is it going to be enough to take pole position? No, but it is enough for the championship leader to get himself onto the front row of the grid. 13 1,000ths of a second behind. Incredible finish there to qualifying. Hayden Ahmed and Sam Hockley for Chaps Motorsport must be feeling upset at the moment because they were doing so well for so much of that session. In the end, the early pole man is going to have to settle for 4th.
Yeah, you would have expected that maybe he could have found something towards the end of the session, but Sam Hockley in the end, sadly for him, not quite finding it. Danny Phillips, what a lap time at the end of the session to put himself P2. That'll be absolutely perfect for him. And those two guys at the front row of the Pro Class are going to be starting in 6th and in 7th overall.
Yeah, we're still, look at that, 10 drivers inside the Pro Class, half a second away. There's only 4 drivers in the Elite Class who are half a second away. And let's not count out Max Wheeler as well. He's thrown himself into that sub-10th bracket there, joining Moss, Phillips, Ahmed, Hockley, and now himself, 3 McLarens, a Porsche and an Audi in what is a very, very similarly matched top 5 in that Pro Class.
A tight field, and it's going to be a good start. I don't think it's going to be too much break up in the field over the course of the race like we've seen in other races so far this season, but that qualifying session has set us up really nicely for an hour's worth of racing at Daytona. And when the margins are so fine, you'd hope that we're going to get some fine margins in the race as well.
I think we are then. So the drivers will have that 5-minute warm-up, as always, to get themselves prepped and ready to go. It doesn't seem too bad out there in the darkness as well. Obviously Daytona floodlit, so you're not relying too much on the headlights. It can make it tricky to judge gaps and to judge side-by-side moments in the dark for some reason. Maybe it'll affect some drivers more than it will others, but yeah, certainly difficult to judge the room that needs to be left, to judge the gaps. And you know, when the drivers start piling into our braking zones, notably down at the horseshoe, into turn 5, and maybe even looking for a move up the inside at the chicane, it's hard enough as it is in the light conditions, but out there in the darkness, it's going to be a different kettle of fish, I think. So good idea for these drivers to get themselves out there. The blimp cam's picked up Mr. Wesley Van Ren at the moment as he takes his McLaren out through the safety of the pit lane and onto the live circuit, of course. Just 3.5 minutes to go in this warm-up session. None of our top drivers choosing to come out onto the circuit. Milton Tomlinson Dennis is there, Dara. Do you recall where he finished in qualifying? Because I don't recall him really being that close to the front.
I think he was, but I'm not too sure. I thought he was 4th. I may have completely invented that in my head. I'm going to go back.
He was 3rd. I've completely missed that.
Oh, he was 3rd. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So you did better than I. I couldn't think for the life of me who was in the top 5. I could tell you who was in the Pro Class top 5. But yeah, Milton Tomlinson Dennis there doing well. His, I think, favourite and most common qualifying position has definitely been 2nd. He's taken a couple of poles, but he's been the one putting on the challenge to Anders Myhre so far this season. As we said earlier on in the broadcast, down to 5th in the standings due to a missed round last week. But he's definitely one to watch to hold on to that podium. I think Craig Twollock has been there once or twice before, the same as Jan Stichbury, but no one has as many podiums as Tomlinson Dennis, aside, of course, from Anders Myhre. So, yeah, watch that Mustang at the start. If you can get past Kieran Sharp, and maybe he can take over that strategy that we mentioned earlier, sitting behind Anders Myhre, trying to build a gap to the cars behind, save a little bit of fuel, see where you end up toward the end of the hour. I'm sure that Milton is definitely up for this one after having missed the session this time last week.
Oh, definitely. And I think there's a few drivers that are going to be very much up for this one because the gaps, again, were so close. They're all going to feel like they have a really good shot at this tonight. So, yeah, I think a lot of drivers are looking forward to this race getting underway. A couple of minutes left of the warm-up session where drivers can just readjust to race settings, but it should be a good start and a good opening lap. Never feels like the race settles very early here at Daytona. And strategy is going to be interesting as well. Slipstream's going to be key if you want to save fuel.
It is. It absolutely is. I would love to be in the shoes of Mr. Chris Jennings at the moment, in this moment in time. He is currently in the pit lane in his McLaren, not out there on the circuit, of course, but a driver who's led, well, he hasn't led the championship the whole way, but over the last couple of weeks took that top spot at the front of the Pro class, since has lost it after failing to get on the podium over the last 2 races, and of course with Danny Weir having that masterclass last week, putting himself on pole position all the way down to the bottom of the grid and back up to win in class. That's really put a little bit of pressure on Jennings. I'd be really curious to try and see how he wants to play this one tonight. Is he going to again look for consistency, maybe look for a finish inside the top 5, or is he going to really try and push, take the challenge to Danny and see if he can disrupt him, obviously at the front of the order?
Yeah, that's going to be important, isn't it? You'll want to be that disruptor at the front, particularly if you are a Chaps Motorsport driver. And Danny Phillips is just going to try and get the points on the board. Of course, he had a very difficult time of it last week, but you almost can't get 2 more, different races, particularly in this season, between a 90-minute race at a sunny Le Mans to a 60-minute race at a dark Daytona. The tracks are almost, completely different. The settings of the race are different. The closeness of the cars is going to be different. It just doesn't feel like you can replicate what you did last week this week based off pure pace, because they are just so incomparable events. But if he's able to get another win, or at least another podium, he's going to be feeling very confident going into the final couple of weeks, but he can realistically do it anywhere. Yeah,
I think for Jennings it's probably maybe a good spell that he hasn't won a race and yet he's still right up there. It proves that if he can just continue to be consistent, getting himself in that top 5, maybe that will be enough, of course. Not if Danny continues to win races, which he now has 3 under his belt. Admittedly, he's never been able to string 2 together so far this season, so maybe that's something he can look out for tonight. But again, the consistency might come through first in favour of Jennings. Only time will tell. So we're going to have a short lap here to get things underway. And, a short formation lap, not the full one by any stretch of the imagination. So while we have the time, let's run through the qualifying order for this one. Round number 8. Anders Myhre once again taking pole position. He'll start ahead of Kieran Sharp, who shares the front row of the grid, 8 1/1000ths of a second away from pole position. Milton Tomlinson Dennis was the championship challenger for a while. Into 5th in the championship, he starts 3rd ahead of Craig Twardock in position number 4. Jan Stitchbury and the pole man in the Pro Class share row 3. Bobby Moss ahead of championship leader Danny Phillips. It's Ben Woodgate splitting up some of the Pro Class drivers in 8th. It's Hayden Ahmed and Sam Hockley, who each had provisional pole at some point during that session, but then that was taken off them by the TSRC Motorsports drivers. Joris Peters-Weem ahead of Max Wheeler inside the top 12, with James Mead and Brandon Dyer next. Andrew Pike and Lewis Kenyon start on row 8 ahead of Faulkner, Cardozo, Furman and Breitenbach inside the top 20. It's Ross Young ahead of Jennings, Paisley Knight, Smith, Hanchik and Clifton the top 26. Wesley Van Ren, Jared Love, Lewis Hammond and Peter Duke the top 30 ahead of Mav Gardner, Marcel Breitenbach, Jamie Bardwell, David Hutchinson, James Foster, and at the back of this 36 car grid is the LS Racing driver of Adam Baker then, Dara. So we're going to be on our way very shortly indeed. We have to come round this final banking section. The pace car will pull in and Anders Myhre will take them down the relatively short run into the braking zone at 1.
Yeah, really important short little run. It's loads of differing lines you can take through the opening corner. But let's just about see how he does it. They're going to be pretty much waiting for the pace car to come in, and then the second the pace car comes in, Anders will look to try and get the jump. They're all going to bunch in behind. This is probably going to be the tightest bunch as well that we'll get all season long at the front of the field. Pace car comes in. Anders Myhre now controls the pace. When does he decide to go? It's not a very long way until the line appears, and there he goes. He disappears from the front of the field and gets the jump that he so desired. He should be able to control the line down into turn 1. But the battle is going to come in behind. Kieran Sharp looking to try and hold it around the outside from Milton Tomlinson Dennis, if he's able to, 2 by 2 by 2 as they work their way through there. The leaders in the Pro Class, the 2 Cup Motorsports cars. Well, they're not the leaders, in fact, I should say, because there's a couple of cars in front of them, of course. Bob Moss and Danny Phillips, they were leading, but at the end of the qualifying session, they got pipped. Everyone looking like they've just about made it through the opening 2 or 3 turns, half spins, a couple of cars off Marcel Breitenbach, that is, but generally everyone through and spoke too soon. A car turned across the nose. That could be Jared Love, I think. It is indeed Jared Love off the road. There shouldn't be any damage. It looks kind of might work his way up the order over the next 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, frantic start there toward the front, but Anders Myhre has got himself away well. He's already picked up a second, a little bit of a bunch up there as the cars check into turn number 5, just getting things going at the moment. Danny Phillips has taken the lead ahead of Bobby Moss at the front of the Pro Class. Not what Chris Jennings wanted to see, but exactly what Danny will be hopeful for. Bobby Moss, though, coming right back on the attack as those two share the track, making their way down to the chicane for the very first time. Phillips is probably going to have to let this one go. Trying to go around the outside at this stage would be incredibly difficult indeed. They're going to go side by side here, and Phillips doesn't look like he wants to give this one up at all. Let's see. Oh, Bobby Moss has given it up on the inside line. Interesting approach there as we just bunch up there. It looked like he slowed down at the apex, but Danny Phillips holds on to the lead of the race, and Andrew Pike is around. Is that I think that's just after the chicane there, Dara. Our first casualty of the chicane, and he's got to sit there and wait, sadly for him, as the entire field passes him by.
It's a horrible place to get stuck. You can't really do anything about it, but he's just going to have to try and recover from there. Now it's going to be a long, long way back. Brandon Dyer then right behind Sam Hockley as they cross the line. Inside line for him. Inside line for Milton Tomlinson Dennis. Looked like he was going to be attacking Ian Stitchbury, but in fact he was not able to. For kind of confused who the cars were, because I thought, well, there's only 3 of them here, but then I remembered Anders Myhre has a second and a half worth of advantage already. Twardock down the inside, his Ferrari, looking to try and steal P4, and sadly for Tomlinson Dennis, the Grenadian, is not able to try and get through the Grenadinian, sorry, not the Grenadian, down in towards the Western Horseshoe. Is he going to be able to cover this one off? Yeah, just about. Craig Twardock backing off slightly, but it's allowed Ben Woodgate in, and again, no one really able to get away from anybody apart from Anders Myhre at the front.
Now Schubert Cardozo and Robert Furman going side by side again. A little bit of a wobble by Furman there on the left hand side of the track, but that doesn't stop him from going back up the inside of Jean Breitenbach, who will look to get the switchback here and get the drive out of the corner. Not quite going to be close enough at the exit, but he might be able to think about one, picking up position going into the chicane for Barbecue Dog Racing. Jan Janchik getting himself inside the top 10. He started 11th in class. He's now into 9th, putting pressure on. That is Chris Jennings, championship challenger, of course, dropping a little bit further down. He's just lost 1 place in the opening 2 laps. He stayed where he was up until this moment there, and he's just dropped 1 position back. He's got the sister team, the other Access Sim Sports, this time Sim Coach, on his rear. Let's see how these two handle that situation. At the front, Anders Myhre is well clear. Tomlinson Dennis is being pressured by Craig Twardock again as we make our way across the line to start lap number 3 here at Daytona. Things going very smoothly, I think it's safe to say here, Dara. So far so good, not too many incidents. It's just Adam Smith and Andrew Pike. Patrick Falconer is another one who is significantly down the order, but we're seeing lots of good, lots of good sensible moves. That one looked a bit tight there as Mav Gardner makes his way up past Lewis Hammond, but it's all fair. Both of them survived, and he picks up another place there. Well done.
Yeah, in the end it worked out nicely for him as he works his way now through the International Horseshoe once again. Very bright purple rim, isn't it, for Lewis Hammond, just in behind. No mistake in that car here tonight. Gardner kind of wedged between Paisley Knight and Hammond for the time being. Still very, very, very early stage in this race. Not even 5 minutes have gone, but movement already, and some good tussles have occurred so far. Phillips in the leader Pro Class. It's not as bad as in terms of saving fuel as being in the lead of the elite class, because pro class you can sit behind somebody and still save fuel despite being in the lead of the race. Sam Hockley's 1.8 seconds behind Hayden Ahmed, but that's just because he's got a couple of cars in between. He's now got another just in behind, and that's James Mead looking to try and make his way through, but he's not going to send it in towards the bus stop.
No, he's not. He stays where he is, of course, the elite driver, right in behind the top 4. Sam Hockley has 2 elite drivers to deal with if he fancies getting a little bit closer, and a little bit closer ahead is this one. It's Ben Woodgate. He's under pressure from 3rd in the pro class, who really wants to stay within touching distance. Look at that. That Porsche ahead is the pro class man in 2nd place, Bobby Morrison. He's not too far behind Danny Phillips either, nearly taken all the way off the apron there. A little bump draft as heading to the first corner, and that is the elite class driver trying to muscle his way past that Porsche, who is potentially going to let him go here as he takes the inside line, which will become the outside. Nearly thought about 3 wide there, but who was that? Hayden Ahmed thought better of it. Stays put, but he now has that 2nd place right in front of him. That will favour Danny Phillips, who was already challenging the car ahead here and trying to make distance between his competitors.
Yeah, let's see if he's going to be able to do it as they continue to battle. A little bit of blinking, that's not going to help at all. Danny Phillips is not going to enjoy seeing that in front of him, especially being in the lead of his class, but he's in the lead. That'll be, I think, more than enough good news for him to feel confident, even if he has got a little bit of blinking going around him. Hayden Ahmed is very much in range as well. And like I said, he won the last race he took part in. He's going to be feeling confident coming into tonight. And they're all very much still in the train. The fact that Anders Myhre's got through, I don't know if we can chuck up the overall order, Joe, on the left-hand side, because you've got those gaps. But when you put it like that, and there's very, very few gaps at all in the train. You know, from Milton Tomlinson Dennis down to Peter Duke in 26th, that's 22 cars. There is, at the moment, 1, maybe sometimes 2 gaps, just over a second. That's it. It's just a big, long train, and you'd expect that to continue for quite some time.
Yeah, this is still raging on in behind the 2 Axis Sim Sports cars. Jennings not under too much pressure, but as we said in the warm-up there, Dara, it's not exactly the start that he would have hoped for. He does have Ross Young in front of him. Looks like he's attempting to make a challenge as Young comes over to defend that inside line. He's going to force Jennings to go around the outside at turn 1, which is exactly what he's trying. The DXT Scion machine is still there with him. You can just see him breaking through the timing tower there on the left, but Jennings has got the job done, even though he's still trying it around the outside. Backs out, and the other Sim Coach car, the other Axis Sim Sports car, makes his way through there. Doesn't quite get through. That's helped Jennings out massively there, and has just piled the pressure on that pack of cars in behind there. We've got so many of them all jostling over the same position. That requires the blunt cam, I think, to fit them all in. Up the inside late goes the Chaps Motorsport machine. He's just muscled his way past Simon Clifton, who drops a handful of places as a result of that move.
Yeah, you've got to be so careful when you're trying to curate an overtake around here, because if it pushes you offline, that could be very bad news indeed. Clifton just ahead of Mav Gardner now as they work their way on towards the oval. And Gardner now trying to come back at him. Behind, you can just about see Lewis Hammond trying to make a move on Peter Duke as they indeed duke it out towards the bus stop, or the chicane, whatever floats your boat. It's nearly 2x2 through here. Just up in front, you can see they are side-by-side in towards the corner. Outside line for Mav Gardner, trying to make it work. That's going to push Simon Clifton offline. And keep an eye on Duke and Hammond now. They'll get a better run than him through the corner. Gardner is in front. That was a bold move, but executed to perfection. Yeah, very well done by the Scotsman there, getting himself up another position. We have battles like this, and we also have battles up toward the front. Tomlinson Dennis still under pressure by Danny Phillips. Ben Woodgate has closed in as well toward that battle at the top, side by side in behind between Duke and Hammond. Almost breaking the cameras, they're going that fast as they head into turn 1. Brilliant spectacle of the massive grandstand that sits in behind them there, fully packed out, of course. Peter Duke does well to defend on this occasion. Let's go and see what's happening up toward the front then. Tomlinson Dennis currently in 5th. He's been left behind somewhat because the top 5 in the elite class starting to break off a little bit. A second between each of them as a minimum. 2 seconds
from the leader downwards. But then in behind Tomlinson Dennis, he's got this massive train. Mostly, in fact, no, it is mostly elite drivers, but we do have, of course, the top 3 pro drivers in there who are going to have to fend for themselves in a minute. Ben Woodgate being a little bit of a nuisance to them at the moment. Bobby Moss not quite close enough to worry about that at the moment. He's got to worry about this McLaren in behind in the 227, which is posing a little bit of a threat at the moment to that position in second place. Then they've got a nice gap down to Sam Hockley, who is a good 2 or 3 seconds further down the road.
He's doing a good job for the time being to stick around where he is. Hayden Ahmed's still close to Bobby Moss as well. I don't think it's going to give Bobby, keep him too happy, but I think Joris is going to be keen to get through on the two of them. As he sits P7 in class, but it's a long way up to P5 in terms of Milton Tomlinson Dennis. Has got 3 pro drivers in himself and a top 5 in his own class, so it's not going to be particularly helpful for him. Kieran Sharp's just set, well, it says it's the fastest time in the race, but that says 44.4 and Anders might set a 44.3, so okay, maybe Anders wasn't valid. I'm not too sure, maybe picked up an instant point for going off the road, something like that. But either way, it's still some good pace at the front of the field. And they are starting to splinter a touch, aren't they?
Yeah, just a little bit. I was just looking at the timing sheet. We do have plenty still going on. Clifton and Hammond doing battle, so Peter Duke has survived that initial onset there by Hammond, and now it's been replaced by another McLaren. The McLaren's in very close proximity here on the circuit. This is the battle for P12 in the Pro Class standings. Jinking from left and to right and back over to the left, and that's going to be a little bit of contact there as they head through turn 5. A pretty tricky place to make it work. You've often just got to try and get a good run here, set yourself up nicely to get onto the banking. How's it going to look on board for Simon Clifton as he gets the power down? Is he going to close that gap? No, it looks as though Lewis Hammond has again got the better run out of this corner, and Chris Jennings here is being passed by Ross Young. They're going side by side as they make their way down toward the bus stop chicane, and it looks as though Jennings might be about to go down another position here. He backs out. Ross Young comes over to take that line, claims the place. That's now Jennings down another place. He's 9th in the class standings. In fact, I think that is where we start. There's been an issue here, Dara. 2 cars are off.
Yep, Simon Clifton, one of them. We were just having a bit of a look at. But he's now off the road at the bus stop chicane. We'll have to see what happened there. There must have been contact. Ben Woodgate, meanwhile, fighting with Milton Tomlinson Dennis. Danny Phillips is involved in all this as well in a way that he probably doesn't really want to be. He's wedged in the middle of quite a fierce battle. But Ben Woodgate's just in behind. Milton's just up in front of him. Danny made the move, didn't he? To get through. And it's just a bit messy at this part. No, he didn't make the move through. Rubbish. He was already in front. It was just a look from Ben Woodgate to make the move. But the 3 of them ploughed into turn 1 less than a couple of tenths apart. So it's frantic at the moment. And not even a quarter of the race has gone. You almost wonder how much fuel some of these guys are saving, if at all.
Yeah, a tricky place to make that work. I'm surprised that Tomlinson Dennis wasn't able to extend that margin a little bit. Perhaps a wobble there for Phillips, because Ben Woodgate has just breezed on past him. That could spell danger here for Phillips, because Bobby Moss and Hayden Ahmed are not too far behind. And with an exit like that coming onto such a long banking section, it's going to make that effort by Phillips a little bit tricky. He looks like he's managed to build the speed back up. He's stayed in front of Bobby Moss, but down the inside he looks very late there, and he backs out again. Thought better of it. He had an opportunity there, did Bobby, to try and put himself up the inside, but again, they're in such a fortunate pace at the moment. No need to really rush it. A quarter of the race has gone, 3/4 left to go. Still plenty of time left to make that kind of move stick, but Phillips has to worry about that now. I think he's going to have to accept that Woodgate perhaps might stay within touching distance of his race to get inside the top 5, and then he should worry about more what's in his rearview mirror.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's side by side across the line. That's not going to be necessarily fun to be a part of. Bobby Moss outside of turn number 1, and if it all goes wrong, Hayden Ahmed's ready to pounce. Well, they just about keep it going between them. But now 1, 2 and 3 in pro are in a line, and they're right bunched up together. They've got a big gap back to Sam Hockley now, nearly 5 seconds, but The top three couldn't be closer, and they are joined by another trio of elite drivers as well. Peters, Vame, Dyer and Mead all sniffing around, and they'll have something to say about this if they can.
Yeah, I'm looking at the top drivers in their class at the moment. Of course, Jennings second is down there in 9th. Bardwell in 5th is all the way down in 15th. So it really is a brilliant opportunity for Bobby Moss and for Sam Hockley. And of course, no, it goes without saying, for Danny Phillips, who's currently in, well, the best position in the point scoring mindset, but not necessarily the best position literally out there on track. But he's in a good position nonetheless. Hayden Ahmed also carrying the good form that he has seen as of late to stay inside that top 3. Big contrast to what we've got going on at the front of the elite class. Anders Myhre and Kieran Sharp about equidistant to each other, and including Jan Sichbury in that equation as well. And as they all come firing through that bus stop chicane again, Danny Phillips gets a pretty good exit. Looks like he's gaining on the back of Ben Woodgate again, so Ben's not cleared this pack either, and he is in fact putting on more pressure to Tomlinson Dennis ahead than I think Danny Phillips is having to deal with in behind. So very intriguing. We have lots of different battles going on inside this little group of drivers, and something might have to give in a few moments time. Look at the speed that he carried there. I'm not sure if that was both of the drivers in front letting off the gas a little bit early there, but that has brought Phillips right back into this train here.
Yeah, it has. And Phillips is just kind of getting himself, I think, far more involved than he wants to be with the the pro battles around him. I think he just wants to try and put his head down and put some distance between himself. The elite battles. I'm just saying, not the pro battles. He is a pro. Whoa, that is, well, that's not right meant to look. Somehow got a rear wing on that car from Nav Gardner. Ferrari's GT3 cars are not supposed to have a rear wing like that. Is there contact into turn 1? Yes, he gets absolutely smashed off the circuit. Difficult to see if it was just an up and under. Yeah, it's just a move down the inside that's gone wrong, isn't it? Yeah, there's no other way about it. And Nav Gardner, I don't think that's going to be a happy Scotsman. Yeah,
I'm trying to, I think that might have been Jared Love. I want to see what he had. Is it Jared Love? I hope I'm not pinning the blame. I am. I'm pinning the blame on the wrong DC Motorsports driver there. I do apologise about that one, but I wanted to see what he was seeing, because it didn't really look like the line was open at any point heading down at the first corner. Let's see. Oh, it's one of those that you think is going to make you a hero, and then when the opportunity isn't really there from the beginning, it doesn't really come off all that well. While we're at it, we may as well go back and see what happened to Simon Clifton and the other DC Motorsports driver there. So, not good so far for the DC drivers there. A less than committed lunge up the inside there by Jared Love on that occasion, sends them all spinning around.
Yeah, it's just not a particularly good attempt, is it really? It's
That's
not
one way of
exactly
putting it.
wanting. Yeah, I mean, when you put your nose down the inside of the bus with chicane,
You have to
commit to it. Yeah, there's no other way. It's so high speed, there's so little margin for error, at the best of times, going single file. So you have to commit, and it just wasn't committed enough. And yeah, if you're the car on the inside and there's on the bus with chicane and there ends up being a car on your nose, chances are you've done something you maybe should have thought better of beforehand. Chris Jennings will hope to avoid doing something like that. He's stuck behind Mr. Paisley Knight for the time being, the third driver for Chaps, but we've got 3 in the top 9, and they'll be pretty pleased how this is going so far.
Yeah, backwards and backwards again for Jennings. Sadly, that's 2 places dropped for him in class from the start of this race, so it doesn't seem like he's got the pace under him at the moment compared to the drivers around him. He just needs to try and hold what he's got for the time being, get to that pit window, see if he can make any time back there, but it's proving a little bit more difficult for the championship challenger, albeit not that easy at the moment either for Danny Phillips, who still has Bobby Moss and Hayden Ahmed in very close proximity to him. Not quite as close as Schubert Cardozo is to Lewis Kenyon at the moment, as the 3 of them go bumper to rear, whatever, through the bus stop chicane. And yeah, Schubert not so bad at the moment. 12th, started 13th, so he's picked up an extra place at the start of this race, and he's trying to extend that gap even more, get himself a little bit closer to the top 10, and it looks like he's gaining massively there. I'm not quite sure what happened there from Lewis Kenyon. You wouldn't expect the closing speed to change so drastically there, but it did, and they made a little bit of contact. He didn't try to make the move though. Neither did Jean Breitenbach in behind this trio. So interesting as they headed down into the first corner. I think, yeah, this is what I'm seeing in front. That is the battle that we've just left. There was a move. I think Wesley Van Ren might have got himself by at one point or another, got himself past Jamie Bardwell in that moment. But yeah, not so bad toward the back end of the Pro Class between these guys. And Danny Phillips still with Ben Woodgate in behind him. No changes at the front of the Pro Class. 5 seconds now down to Max Wheeler.
Yep, that's a decent gap back now. And the top three just, it feels like more and more like they're getting away. Almost isolating themselves in their own mini battle. Yeah, of course they've got elite gloves around them, but it feels at the moment the winner in Pro, unless something catastrophic happens, is going to be between one of those three drivers. You feel kind of the same in elite at the front of the field. Craig Twardock, there we go, is there, trying to go through on Jan Stitchbury. It has felt for quite a lot of the season that it has been a battle for third behind Anders Myhre and Milton and Dennis, but Milton's not quite at the races tonight in the same way that we're used to seeing him, so there's a couple of spots left on the podium. Kieran Klopp's doing a very, very valiant job to stay within 2 seconds of Anders Myhre and then keep that gap pulling to these two, and if they keep battling like this as Twardock gets through on the inside at turn 1, it's going to keep Kieran Klopp happy, I think.
Yeah, good move, not defended by Jan Stitchbury. He might fancy getting in behind the slipstream of another car for a while, see if he can do his race the world of good over the long run. Of course, 40 minutes. We've just passed that 40-minute mark, so we're getting toward the halfway stage of this one. Probably sensible in this moment by Stitchbury just to conserve a little bit, stay behind, not take any risks there. No point defending. Moved over to the right-hand side, going in down toward turn 1, and let that TSRC Ferrari through nicely. And you can see that he has the pace, because throughout the entire infield section there, he hasn't skipped a beat, has Mr. Stitchbury. He's still with him up onto the banking. This is where the advantage will start to fall in favour of the DXT Magenta driver. Speaking of which, the DXT Magenta driver will be happy where he is at the moment, and as a team, of course. Danny Phillips in first, and Stitchbury in fourth, bringing in some good points in their challenge toward the front of their order. Bobby Moss looks like he is putting the most pressure that we've seen on Danny Phillips. I think he had some front bodywork there alongside the rear of the race leader, and that's a massive moment there for Danny Phillips as he lets him by. I think he might have maybe picked up a massive whack of oversteer, maybe too eager on the throttle there coming out of the chicane. We'll see if we can figure out what happened there from his perspective. But yeah, new race leader in the Pro Class, and he's under pressure again from Hayden Armour, Danny Phillips, so he's gone from first potentially down to third, albeit he will have the inside line if he can keep that McLaren alongside. But a really poor exit from the chicane, it seems there.
Yep, not what he would have wanted. Danny Phillips is going to be able to control the inside lines, but he's not going to stick from first to third, but he will stay in second behind Bobby Moss. I may try to take advantage because he's not quite there for the time being. But, I mean, we're hurtling towards the half race distance here, and it's good to see that we're getting these battles unfold. You could see Bobby Moss, he psyched that out. He went a little bit earlier into the, well, I say he broke his bit earlier into the first part of the chicane to try and get the exit into the second part. You wouldn't have expected Danny Phillips to have, gone to two wheels there, but let's see it from Danny's point of view. This won't be pretty viewing.
Really? Saw the sky, and then he saw the ground again, and he saw his competitor flying right by him there. Big whack over those. Of course, they haven't been reprofiled that recently, but I think if SRI have come to Daytona since they've been reprofiled, it's happened, I think, once at best. I believe they were reprofiled ahead of this year's Daytona 24 back in January, so they've been on the platform now for a good few months, but can't think if SRI has turned up here in that time. Potentially have missed quite a bit over the last few months, but again, the point is they are new profile, they are slightly different curves, a slightly different bus stop section, and on that occasion they caught Danny out. He's made it through there looking effortless, so he's back to his normal best. And again, what we saw Ryan do with Twardock a little bit earlier on, Phillips might now be doing to Bobby Moss. He's controlled the race for a while, and now he's going to be able to sit in behind his competitor, save a little bit of fuel, of course, as we approach that pit window, and see if that helps them shave any time off of their pit stop, which will be fast approaching. Down to turn 1, he thinks about it and sack what I've just said, because he wants to take the race lead back, and that's exactly what he has done. Down into turn 1, and Hayden Ahmed might fancy a chance. A bit unorthodox because he's going to be stuck on the outside, backs out and allows the TSRC Porsche to reclaim that position. But now look at the train that we have here. It's Joris Peters Weem, Brandon Dyer and James Mead in the elite class. So it's 1, 2, 3 and 7, 8, 9 between our two classes. And Phillips, beautifully done there, going into turn 1, reclaims the lead.
And he's just about sticking himself into the right places at the moment. The issue for these three is they're battling. I think there's just those three very, very hungry elite drivers are right behind them, ready to pounce on any kind of mistake. Hayden Ahmed's driven safely enough for the time being that they've not really been able to have too much of a look, but they are holding the group up a little bit, and the battling is meaning that they're not exactly pulling from Max Wheeler in the same way that they were before. If anything, Wheeler is starting to come back a touch, but we're not talking about very big margins at the moment. This is a look back at what happened a moment ago to get Danny Phillips back to the race lead. Waited late, went to the inside, broke a little bit later, and then was able to control the line inside of Bobby Moss. And I think Bobby realised that if he goes too wide, he could allow Hayden Ahmed through, and realised just in time because he could cover that off through 2 and 3. But good driving from all three of them. Yeah,
got that one covered off nicely. Here's Ben Woodgate on the back of Milton Tomlinson Dennis, trying to get himself up into 5th, of course. Milton has dropped 2 places from the start at the expense of Twardock and Stitchbury, who've gained 1 respectively. And he's now got Ben Woodgate started 6th, currently 6th, trying to get himself in the top 5. This pair have broken away by nearly 2 seconds ahead of Danny Phillips. So of course that 5-man train that we saw earlier has dropped off from these two, but has picked up Veem, Dyer and Mead, as we saw earlier. Patrick Faulkner is in the pit lane, and we also saw Wesley Van Ren and Lewis Hammond coming in for quite an early stop. There's been a drama for Adam Baker at some point as we pick him up rolling the wrong way through the track. Is that coming out of the infield? I think it is. I think he's just kicked up probably a bit too much throttle. Let's see if we can see here from Lewis Kenyon's perspective what might have happened. We need to go on board and we can see him ahead. Interestingly, Dart, there's no replay for this one, so we're going to have to go on, see if we can catch anything up in the distance. No, he's definitely got a bootload of throttle and just lost the car, and he's just sort of patiently sitting there on the inside.
Ben Woodgate decides that he wants to try the Danny Phillips line momentarily through the end of the bus stop. He's going to lose a little bit more time to Tomlinson going in front, but yeah, easy to do on the exit of the infield. As you go up, the camber changes immediately, and torque can unsettle the rear end. Looks like it did for him. Jan Stitchbury looking to try and get back into the podium. Craig Twardock made that move on him, but isn't able to pull away. I mean, it's pretty impossible to pull away here at Daytona because you spend so much time just in behind in the slipstream. So even if you are a few tenths of a lap faster, you lose all of that advantage on the oval section. And Jan's just sitting there exactly where he needs to for the time being.
Yeah, doing very well to just maintain that gap to the podium. In front of them, of course, Sharp and Anders Myhre in a bit of a field of their own at the moment. Just a little bit up the road, not too far, 7 or 8 seconds further up the road, coming on the banking at the moment, is the race leader. And that gap, that battle between the top 3 and the top 9 in the elite class still raging on here. Very, very interesting, of course. Joris Peters Veem has to be careful because he's going to want to put a buffer between his 2 competitors in behind, but he won't want to risk too much. It looks as though he's got Hayden Ahmed exactly where he wants him. Hayden not quite close enough to challenge ahead. He's not getting any slipstream, whereas that BMW, of course, notorious for its straight line speed. I'm feeling a sneeze coming on here, Dar, but it's not coming. the BMW, yeah, in a good place at the moment. Oh, and he's right up behind that McLaren, who maybe had a little bit of a poor entry there. I think it might be a good time now for the BMW to put a cast gap in between himself and the other elite class drivers.
Yep, and I think that's important for him to be into that position now. As James Mead just kind of there. I mean, it's difficult because I think none of them really want to blow open their races or throw away the good positions that they find themselves in. But it's so difficult. If you're Joris, you go for the move now. Again, he thinks about it and then doesn't go for it. Oh, and he maybe should have done, because down the inside comes Brandon Dyer and he's just overtaken 2 of them into the opening turn. Well, that was opportunism, and that's worked perfectly. Goodness me.
Yeah, it was. Let's see what happened there to Brandon Dyer as both cars move to the outside. He thinks, go on then, boys. If you're going to make my path that easy up the inside of the first corner, I will bite your hand off. And that's exactly what he's done. So the challenger, of course, toward the front of the elite class, albeit 223 points behind Anders Myhre. He is second in the championship, and now he gets himself past both of those, one pro and one elite driver, into the top 7 for Brandon Dyer. Good move, the most committed move I think we've seen so far tonight, as we've just crossed into the second half of the race, and we've only had so far 4 cars come into the pit lane. That's Wesley Van Ren, Lewis Hammond Faulkner, and Lewis Kenyon has just come in as well. He's making his way out for his outlap, I believe.
Yep, he has indeed. And we'll see how he can go in the second half of this race. We have gone over that half race, it's 28 minutes to go. I just feel like it's going through quite quickly, doesn't it? I think that's because there's so much action towards the front of the field. Drivers have been so close for so long. Time has passed quite quickly indeed. Jared Love should be getting through on David Hutchinson as they run over through the banking towards the bus stop chicane. And we'll see if there's going to be any settlement before we get into towards the braking zone. Just about. And it'll be Jared Love ahead of Hutchinson through the corner. Didn't look like they wanted to give that one up too easily, but he had to in the end.
John Breitenbach looking to go for this one. I'm not quite sure what's going wrong with that barbecue bread racing livery. It looks awfully shiny today, almost like it's got a little film over it, but maybe that's just the lighting. Potentially doing well. Jean 6th at the moment. It's been a pretty up and down season for him in the elite class. He is not, oh wait, of course he is inside the top 12 and 6th at the moment in the championship standings. Only one podium for him so far this season. That came back in the 3rd round. Last time out he had a 7th, so pretty strong result for him over the last couple of weeks. He tends to score well, then score poorly, then score well, then score poorly. So at the moment he is breaking that duck in 6th. Good points for him. He's got 2 seconds to catch in front and a second and a half behind at the moment, going after Schubert Cardozo, 11th in the elite class, so probably making the most of that tow that he's getting from the BMW driver ahead of him. Still no changes toward the front. Jan Sitchbury Milton Tomlinson Dennis, someone's off the road. Tomlinson Dennis is off the road and he's going to rejoin, and I'm not sure if someone else was caught up in that one there. Let's quickly jump to a replay, Dara, and see what's happened to him here.
Yep, chicane. Just on the exit. Just must have been a snap of oversteer on the exit that's caught him out and he's been unable to catch, but that's devastating for Milton. He's going to drop right the way down the order. There was that big train of 6 going through. And look at it on the exit. Yeah, just before that little bump, I think you could just about see him start to lose it before the curb, and then the curb sends him spinning. And that's unfortunate, but thankfully for him at least, he's sitting inside the top 10.
Jan Janczyk is in the pit lane as these 3 drivers make their way past that pit entry line. John Breitenbach boxed in, sorry, that's Marcel Breitenbach boxed in behind that McLaren. And he's got the DC Motorsports car of Jared Love, who looks to go very, very wide and very, very long around the outside of the first corner. That might have allowed Marcel to have a little think about making a pass on the exit, but wasn't able to make it stick on that occasion. Looking for the switchback as the door gets closed from the McLaren head, so nothing changing down at this point in the order. Adam Smith will join Janček in the pit lane. Action starting to unfold. 25 minutes to go. Some drivers are going to join them. It looks like Jared Love is extremely ready to get himself past this McLaren. Not taking any breathers, not giving him any space. Every single opportunity that he gets on the brakes, it looks as though he's gaining right up close to him at the moment. Let's see how he fares when they head a little bit closer down. And Danny Phillips is round our race leader in the pro class. It looks like he's got damage.
Yeah, it's a big moment, not just for the race but for the championship as well. Is he going to have to tow it? Can he get out? It looks like he's going to have to tow it because he's not moving. Or he is moving.
That was very weird.
Yeah, it took a few seconds. Not entirely sure why, but he's going back. He's getting back going again. Oh, he's just letting the car through. That's what he was doing. Getting off the racing line. That car looks, well, it looks structurally okay. I suppose he'll probably come into the pit lane this time by, make sure he fixes any damage, and then I guess he can refuel the car to the end. Moss is in, Wheeler is in as well. That's blown the race wide open. Yeah,
I'm not quite sure what the thought process was. We'll go back and watch a replay. It could have been a technical fault because he was, did you hear him? He was on the throttle for about 5 seconds there before he got going again. And I'm not sure, has that come from frustration perhaps? He's thought that his race was over, then he's realised that it's okay, or was it a technical fault and he's ended up having to pull the car over to one side? Because in that moment, if you can get yourself going again, I mean, we saw what he did last week and he won the race, and he would only have been a matter of seconds behind Bobby Moss, and he could have still challenged, albeit with just 24 minutes to go at the time. It would have been a bit trickier than it was last week, but it seemed like he sat there for an awfully long time. Let's see what happens then. He's got, no contact. He loses it of his own accord there. I'm going to go back and we're going to watch from it on the onboard and see if we can figure out why he just sat on the throttle pedal for so long. It's, look, it is, it's technical. Because he's not, look at the steering wheel, you know?
Oh, yeah.
It freezes in place and then the throttle freezes in place. I would potentially have that down as technical. Watch, it just snaps into place and then doesn't move.
Yeah, that's not what it's meant to do. I'm no expert, but that's not it.
And then if we give it a few seconds, it should just snap back again as he gets it moving. Oh, there you go. And then he's back. So, yeah, I would put that down to the technical and not the emotion of Danny Phillips, which was a possibility. But having looked at the replay, I think it's safe to say that something went wrong with his hardware there. And that is why he is down. Well, I say down. He's back to 5th, of course. Because has he been in the pit lane? No, he won't have been in the pit lane yet. So Danny Phillips stays out, continues. Big 20 minutes for him at the moment. I think that would bring him out behind Chris Jennings as well, who's in the pit lane. So, has he got more? Oh, he's having troubles here, Dara, I think. Because that sounded like he was hitting the rev limiter there.
I mean,
he's got no gears.
It must be some kind of wheel issue. I mean,
oh my.
Just to state the obvious. Milton Thomason Dennis, by the way, has a drive-through. That's why he's probably out of the race. Danny Phillips, though, I mean...
It looks like he's steering on a controller. Martin Keyford just mashing the D to get it turned in. Look at how jarring the steering wheel is. Well, it's not that bad.
Yeah, there's something wrong. I mean, this is... this is awful for him because, of course, he's a championship contender, championship leader, had a fantastic race last week, and clearly it's being undone this week by something that's completely out of his control. But, I mean, what can you do? It's awful when technology fails, but it's a risk just generally in sim racing.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he can do here. Maybe he could get it to the pits while it's refueling, could do a quick restart of the base, but he is bleeding lap time at the moment. God knows where he's going to come out if he does come out, but that McLaren has seen better days and the engine has felt better as he completely skips that. That's going to be a slowdown, but it won't matter because by the time he gets to his top speed again, that slowdown is going to quickly disappear. That engine sounds awful as he comes past. He's passed by Bobby Moss, who is now a lap down on the net race leader here around Daytona. Got a feel for Danny. I do want to watch him into the pit lane just to see, he'll come in and he'll probably try and address that issue. But that is devastating, of course. Only came into tonight's championship with a 5-point lead. Chris Jennings is going to score more than 5 points as things stand, and that is going to really spice things up toward the end of this season, as things looked like they were beginning to go in Phillips' favour, with Jennings being slightly out of form as of late. It's all just been flipped on its head, and the advantage looks like it's back in the hands of Jennings.
Yeah, it very much does. And I mean, Jennings isn't even having the best race himself tonight. You could say it's a bit of an advantage. Well, wait, where is... Well, I was going to say advantage Sam Hockley. No, because he's down the order in P18, of course. So they're both out of the running. So this really has gone well for Chris Jennings. If Chris Jennings can find an extra couple of spots, he's going to be feeling much better. Danny Phillips comes back out again.
I think he's got gears. He went from first to second there.
Did he fix it now?
Well, it did snap, and I think he disconnected the base, and he's brought it back. Let's see as he gets through the gears. 2. Is he going to make it into 3? Yes. Is he going to make it into 4? Danny Phillips is back in the race, and he's down in 17, so he's still going to score points as long as this technical issue doesn't happen again. He's got 19 minutes, 20 seconds left to try and get back into this, but it's going to be such a challenge for him to even gain a couple of places with the time that we have remaining. Not going to see the same heroics that we did last week at Le Mans, but credit where it's due to Danny. That's a massive problem. Really difficult to stomach when you're in a championship fight, but he's not giving up. Oh, he might give up now, Dara, as he spins it on cold tyres out of 5.
Yeah, just about. Makes it round the corner. But he's a long way down the order. He's just going to have to hope for a couple of errors from drivers in front. But every point could count towards the end of this championship, so good to see him back in the race. Jean Breitenbach fighting away with Ross Young as they run their way towards the line. This is 54 now in the class. Render makes it look a bit funny, that car, but it's not how it should look. But either way, it doesn't really matter. John to the inside line. Is he going to be able to just sneak it up the inside, or can Ross sweep it through? It feels like it's going to be more likely the latter. He's got a good exit through 2 and 3 from the inside line, but well, they're still locked side by side in towards the international horseshoe.
Yeah, we can just see their confirmation in amongst that chaos with championship leader Danny Phillips. Everybody has taken their mandatory stop up and down the order, so the racing resumes, as it were. Anders Myhre still leading Kieran Sharp, who's 8 seconds clear of Jan Stitchbury. He's got himself back past the Ferrari of Craig Twardock and dropped him by a second as it stands. That battle toward the front of the Pro class has also subsided as a result of Danny Phillips' technical issue. Hayden Ahmed has taken the lead over Bobby Moss, and he's got 2.3 second gap, so that's come out of nowhere, because those four were right on each other's tail for a long period of this race. And now the only battle that we have is the one that we have on screen at the moment between Ross Young and Sean Breitenbach.
Yeah, Sean Breitenbach is still pounding his way towards what could be a top 4 position in this race as we enter very nearly the final quarter of an hour. Good to see that Kieran Sharp has kept Anders Myhre honest in this race. Still only 3 seconds of that gap. I wonder if Anders is going to turn up towards the end, but you see that they've kept it close. But as with every race so far this season, the pit stop cycle has kind of blown open some of these gaps and some of the racing. It's not necessarily great for us up here, but these drivers know exactly who they're racing towards the end.
Oh, that's what happened to Sam Hockley. Yep.
Yeah, that's why Hockley's out of the race, and that makes sense because I feel like he did much wrong throughout the race, and well, he didn't do anything wrong there, just got caught out in all of it. Let's see it on board from him. You can see it happening in front. You wouldn't expect it to come back at you. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing you can do that at all. You'd never expect it to then roll back into your path.
No, you wouldn't, and it's tricky. The car's loaded funny as it exits that corner. It's pretty hard to get the power down, and if you've got some power down already and then you try and change the steering input, you're going to probably lose the car of your own accord anyway, which is what happened to Tomlinson Dennis as he got pretty close to the car in front. I think it maybe caught him off guard a little bit, and he's tried to make a correction, and in the end the car has come around on him, and then it's rolled. Sadly, I don't think he covered his brakes well enough there, and he's rolled back up the banking and taken out Sam Hockley. So it's been a good run of form as of late for Mr. Hockley. Sadly for him, he is now a lap down in P18, so points on the board, but not very many as it stands, and Bobby Moss in second place. If he can get past Joris Petersveen, then it is just going to be 1.5 seconds ish worth of a gap to Hayden Ahmed. And John Breitenbach, did he just get past? No, Ross Young has been passed here. Jan Jančík out of nowhere into the top 5. That would put him on one of his best results of the season. He picked up a 4th a fortnight ago. And at the moment, he's come out of nowhere, gained 10 places overall, 6 places in class. One of the biggest net gainers in the pro class tonight is the privateer, and he's hungry for more, Dara. He's chasing down John Brayton back here in a chance to get himself into 4th.
It mentioned at the top of the broadcast when we looked at the standings that he's had 3 top 10s in a row, looking very much for a 4th and looking what could be a P4 as well. Really, really good, strong race from Jan Jančík in a car that's not been well chosen. Ross Young's going to try and displace him from P5 though, and successfully does. Inside line's going to work to him. Careful, there's an elite driver coming through as well, who wouldn't like to get caught up in all this, and that is Patrick Falconer in that Lamborghini. Quite a wide car, can look quite ominous, particularly with that luminous green, yellow, whatever you want to call it.
I'd give it lime green.
Yeah, it's not yellow, is it? Particularly on the line. So he will. It's obviously green. What's that about? Anyway, sorry. He's going to be trying to get through on these guys pretty quickly because I think he's going to be looking at a P10, but he's going to do a lot of catching to Schubert Cardozo if he wants that top 10.
Yeah, a lot of work to do, and he's going to. Oh, excuse me. Mid-yawn there. It's mid-sip last week, mid-yawn this week. He's got a lot of work to do with Lamborghini, but our first job is to displace that Cyan EXT machine of Ross Young. Ahead of him, Lewis Kenyon in another fluorescent lime green Ferrari, this time with Yorkshire T on the side, is looking to go around the outside into the chicane. He thought about holding it there, but the Axis Sim Sports Sim Coach team of Robin Furman has held firm and kept that position as things stand. Craig Twardock is right on the back of Jan Stitchbury. He is probably in the best position in terms of a late change for some pretty strong points, of course. Brayton back, Young and Jančík, same can be said for them, but if Craig Twardock can stay on the back of Stitchbury, put on a last gasp attack in the final few laps here, going to be encroaching in the next 10 minutes or so, he could get himself back up onto the podium for Mr. Twardock, who's of course done quite well so far in this championship, but at the moment he's not inside the top 12. Jan Stitchbury, of course, trying to chase down that top 3. So, yeah, lots on offer for the pair of them as we enter the final 13 minutes.
Yeah, not long to go now. I mean, a couple of handfuls of laps. Is it a handful of laps? I mean, the human, whatever. Not long to go. Craig Twardock, not a long way behind Jan Stitchbury. It's nice to see these two come back together towards at the end of the race for a battle. We're getting Dyer as well, Kenny Furman. We're getting a couple more of those drivers getting closer. Wesley Van Ren, something's happened to David Hutchison. He's off the road somewhere, and there he is, and he's definitely off the road. It's about 3 yards. Sorry, goodness me. 3 miles off the road is what I was trying to say.
You're probably closer with 3 yards, actually.
Yeah, to be fair. He's only got about a yard off the line there, and then all of a sudden it's kicked him round. And there's a lot of green grass in the middle of the infield because he didn't hit anything. He carried on instead.
Yeah, nicely slaloms his way through those advertising boards on the grass and gets himself going again. No fault of anybody else, just the fault of himself on that occasion. Brandon Dyer has been slowly and quietly going about his business tonight. He's gained 8 places overall, 3 places in class, and now he's all over the back of Ben Woodgate, who of course spent a lot of time in behind Tomlinson Dennis in the early stages of this race, but since Tomlinson Dennis is now out, he is picked up that place in 5th. He's got to defend it though, because that McLaren, 2 McLarens of course, but that trailing McLaren Altitude 3M eSports driver is in a bit of form at the moment, off the back of his joint best result this time last week to take himself up to 3 podiums so far this season, trying to get himself into the top 5, trying to cement that position in 2nd. He knows that the championship is well and truly over for the most part, and he's got to look over his shoulder. Nils Wever 72 points behind at the moment, so he's going to increase that gap once again over the German, who I don't think is actually with us tonight. Quick scan at the timing sheet. I'm not sure that Nils Wever is there, so big points to be gained. Could do himself a massive favour and secure that 2nd place spot in the championship with a good result tonight.
Yeah, and I think we are looking into. We're looking at the fact that these orders generally are not going to change now in the final 10 minutes. On the whole, yeah, there could be a couple of position swaps, but if you're running inside the top 7 or 8, you're probably likely to stay there, bar some kind of absolute disaster. As long as Craig Poirot doesn't do anything silly up the inside of Jan Stichbury, they should finish in 3rd and 4th, depending in the order that they do. 600 seconds or so to go. They're just about lapping over 100 seconds a lap, which means we've got 6 or 7 laps left to go in this race here at Daytona. It's going to be close, actually, for Myhre at the front of the field. I think it's going to be 6, but it is going to be tight somewhat. Hayden Ahmed, of course, leading now in the Pro class ahead of Bobby Moss. There's a second advantage there. Ooh, is there going to be an elite driver in between them? No. Joris Petersveen, I believe that is just about getting through. And now he's going to be in P7. He's going to be trying to chase after Brandon Dyer, but can Hayden Ahmed almost use him to keep himself in front of Bobby Moss? That could be important. Yeah,
I think Bobby Moss probably smelled a little bit of an opportunity there as Veen made his way through into the first significant chance, well, the second significant chance on the lap, but he hasn't been able to capitalise. He's going to have to work a little bit harder to try and reclaim that spot at the front of his class, but he's in the best position to do it. In fact, he's in a better position than anybody else out there on the circuit, any of the other 35 drivers. So I wouldn't mind being in his shoes at the moment, because he can sort of stay worried for the time being. He doesn't have to worry about defending, because he's got a 5.6 second gap down to the Audi of Max Wheeler. And if Joris has a few issues a little bit further on and holds up Hayden Ahmed, which it looked like he might have done ever so slightly there going into the bus stop, that will allow a better exit for the Porsche. Could line himself up nicely, of course, and we've seen it plenty of times before here in SRI Dara, haven't we, when drivers come toward the line on the final lap, and it can be very dramatic with some drivers winning it, well, or losing it by a very fine margin indeed.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, the margins are always fine, particularly at Daytona. I've seen races come down to thousandths of a second across the line, kind of like this between Young and Breitenbach. Runs to the line just like this, and it really is a test to see who can try and get to the line first. These are the margins that we'll be talking about in about 8 minutes time when the race has finished. Bobby Moss ahead of Hayden Ahmed, though. They were side by side in towards turn 1. Or was it turn 1? Well, they were side by side a second ago, because you can see on the timing that tower momentarily it was by nothing, but Moss is in front of Ahmed, so there's a swap at the front there in the Pro class, and the battling could invite Max Wheeler over closer.
So then this is how the picture looks at the front of the entire field. You could just see that Lamborghini of Kieran Sharp in behind the Ferrari leading, just shy of 5 seconds. So it's going to need to be a mistake by Anders if there's going to be any fortune for Sharp at the moment, but he knows that he doesn't have to push too hard. He's got nearly 10 seconds worth of a gap down to Jan Stichbury, who's got his hands full with Craig Twardock at the moment. Same can be said for Woodgate and Dyer, so 2 significant battles there trying to get the 3rd place and 5th place in the elite class. But yeah, just thought I'd flash up Anders, of course. We haven't checked in on him all race long, been doing what he does best, of course. Did very well in qualifying, as he always does, and he's led from the offset throughout the entirety of the race with just under 7 minutes left to go. Doesn't have to worry too much about Kieran Sharp, just has to be aware of his own pace at the moment to know that as long as he manages that over the next few laps, it's not going to be enough for Sharp to gain on him. What he can't do is afford any mistakes. Got to be careful when passing lapped traffic, which is something that he's about to consider with Peter Duke next to pass him, the DC Motorsports Ferrari ahead. And yeah, once he gets past him, it's going to be a nice little break for him to just see out the final few laps here. But we can see the challenger there in behind, top of your picture, is there. He's keeping him honest, but at the moment it's out of his hands. It's all down to what the championship leader is capable of doing.
Yeah, and with 6 minutes to go, it should be 3 to go when he crosses the line. In the not too distant future. And it really has come down to fantastic run of results for Anders Myhre, isn't it? He's been so consistent all season long. That is why he's almost certainly going to win the title. I'm going to stop talking about Anders Myhre, Joe.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a good idea anymore. And, well, I can only apologise to Anders because I think I think we were glazing a bit too much there.
Potentially. Wouldn't be my choice of word, but I'm with you though. However, that does just put something in the mind, because although Kieran hasn't really gained that much, he gained half a second. You can see, I think that's a different car in between them, and then there's Peter Duke and the race leader just behind that little TV at the top of the dash, so you can't quite see them. But it is a pretty big gap that he's got to overcome. But as we said there, Anders was going to have to make a mistake if it was going to favour the Lamborghini in behind, and that's exactly what he nearly did. Recovered it well, lost minimal time, but that's the kind of fortune that Sharp will need tonight if he's going to get a better result than what he is already on for. I'm sure, though, a driver like Anders, after you've made that kind of mistake once, you ensure that you do not do it again.
Yeah, I think he's going to drive it quite nicely and safely to the end of the race with a few laps to go. Craig Twardock might try and get through on the iron Stitchbury. No, down in towards the western horseshoe. It's not really a gap to make a move through there. Side by sides though, Hayden Ahmed, not side by side, but close to Bobby Moss into the final stages. They come in towards the western horseshoe as well. There was something that happened just a moment ago.
Sorry.
Down at the bus stop. Is it? No, don't worry. Is it a loss of the rear end? Yes, it is indeed. Oh, and a slight graze into the wall, very nearly avoiding.
Yeah, that was Robert Furman, and yeah, I did throw that one under their door without much warning, but just wanted to pick up on that one. That happened just a couple of laps ago. The last incident out there on the circuit. Good battle here between Paisley Knight, Jan Janchik and Ross Young, the three drivers that we see there. This is for the battle for 5th, so it is starting to pick up a little bit. We've got the battle for 3rd and for 5th in the elite class. We've got the battle for the race lead in the pro class, and we've got the battle for 5th between 3 drivers in the pro class as well. So 4 little battles to make the most of to end this session on a high. It doesn't look like Anders Myhre is planning on making any more mistakes over the next couple of laps, and Jan Stitchbury initially was passed by Craig Twardock there, but Twardock was on the outside line, so he would have only ever had half a car in front of him under braking. Jan, as the track favoured him, bending in toward the left, it came back to him and he was able to hold on to that position, but it proves that Twardock had the exit coming out of the bus stop before they crossed the line, and that's something that might play on Jan's mind going into that final section. He has to nail the exit coming out of the bus stop chicane, or that might allow a good run for Twardock and his Ferrari to try and pip that podium away from Stitchbury. Something that we'll definitely watch when we get onto the white flag, because that might be the closest opportunity that we have, especially for the high value points places. Having said that, of course, the exact same thing could happen between these 2 drivers, Bobby Moss and Hayden Ahmed, joined for company by Joris Petersveen in the elite class.
Yeah, I think it should be white flag this time by, but it's going to be close actually. I'm not too sure. I wonder if we can keep an eye on where Anders is. And he's coming onto the banking now. It's obviously a 1:44 lap, give or take. 2 minutes to go. Should be 1 to go. Yeah, it'll be 1 to go when he crosses the line. Or is it? Let's see. It's going to be... It's one of those times where it gets quite close to the line. Somehow, over 104 seconds, you'd think it'd be pretty obvious, but
yep,
no, this is white flag. Is it? Ooh,
yeah, it is.
About.
It is. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, he's going to hit the line basically at 0, but that means we've got 1 to go, and everyone behind is not got long to race. Bobby Moss and Hayden Ahmed have got 1.5 to go for them now. Let's see if there's any move that Hayden can put.
Here's Twardock. He's got himself passed again, but it's a similar story to last lap. He's going to be stuck on that outside line. Very difficult for these guys at this latter stage of the race to have to attack and defend at this point, but it's what they've both been asked to do. They've been all over each other for the entirety of this race, really. And look at that, Bobby Moss and Hayden Ahmed were side by side momentarily there as they headed into the first corner, and Bobby Moss holds what he had or takes the lead of the race. I don't recall. I think he was ahead, wasn't he, Zara? Yes, so Bobby Moss holds on. Was he ahead? Or am I lying there? He was ahead. So he holds on to that place on the final lap. It's going to be 1 or 2 more opportunities for Hayden to try and make that one stick. And again, it might be, as we make that run down toward the line then. So Anders Myhre is heading out of onto the banking, heading toward the bus stop, and then we'll pick him up as he takes the checkered flag before, of course, quickly jumping to our tightly knit battles at the moment to see if anyone can pip their fellow competitor toward the line. Gap a little bit far now for Ahmed, I think. And here comes Anders Myhre as he takes what is his 6th race victory in a row and his 7th of an 8-round season thus far.
Yeah, it's been a really, really impressive season for Anders Myhre, and he's going to take another win over the course of this season. He's been so dominant to this point, and after exactly an hour's worth of racing, Anders Myhre wins once again. Kieran Sharp, what a valiant race from him in that Lamborghini to take P2. And who's it going to be on the line? Stitchbury, Twaddock. Twaddock on the outside line. He's got the overlap. He's going to have to steal. And Craig Twaddock's going to steal it on the line for P3. What a result. There
we go. We saw that kind of thing happening. That's exactly what happened there. And it's going to happen again, is it? Oh, no. I think they've already crossed the line. Ben Woodgate holds on to that position by 4 1,000ths of a second. In the end, something's happened to Hayden Ahmed. He finishes over 2.5 seconds, just over 2 seconds back from Bobby Moss. Robert Furman out of class on Chris Jennings. What will now be the championship leader. He will inherit that back, having lost it last week. Danny Phillips down there in 15, so that net swing is of course going to be more than 5 points, which is what Jennings trailed by at the start of this one. Swipes that bead of sweat off of his forehead, does Jennings, after another decent result, but not the result of a champion, I think it's safe to say. But that does put him back into position with only 2 rounds left to go. Of course, the Red Bull Ring this time next week, and then Suzuka for that finale. It's advantage Jennings as things stand, but congratulations to Bobby Moss, who was in the barrier, Hayden Ahmed, who was also in the barrier, and Max Wheeler there, who got himself up nicely throughout and pips the rest of those guys to the final place on the podium.
Great result for Max Wheeler and for Bob Sandhead. Well, all of the podium sitters, in fact. John Breitenbach, good result for him. Jan Janczyk, another top 10 in P6. And yeah, I think some happy faces in Pro, but again, it's that regular change of who's at the front in the Pro class. No one can really find that consistency. And Anders Myhre's clearly liking this one. He's got the champion, isn't he?
Yeah, let's see if he can pull it off. He's got a pretty difficult place to work there, up on the banking, but he is actually making it work. He's the championship leader at the moment, so good control over that Ferrari. And I wonder how long he's going to go. Of course, he's got his enduring fans out there in that huge grandstand calling his name at the moment, so he's going to make the most of that one. And he heads off into the pit lane in fine style indeed. Cracking effort again by the RAA Sim Sports driver then. So, as always, let's take you through our race results, and we will start first, as always, with the elite class drivers. So, in first position from pole to P1 once again for his 6th race victory in a row and his 7th out of an 8-round season. It's the championship leader, the RAA Sim Sports Ferrari of Anders Myhre. Kieran Sharp, great effort for him, and a great effort for the TSRC esports drivers who share the podium for the first time this season. Pipped Ian Stitchbury to the line. You can see on the right hand side there, nothing in it between 3rd and 4th. Ben Woodgate holds off Brandon Dyer toward the end as well to see a top 5 finish for the Inter Racing team ahead of Altitude Free M. Joris Petersveem next. He is in 7th ahead of Lewis Kenyon, Patrick Falconer and Schubert Cardozo, who finish inside the top 10. It's Peter Duke, Robert Furman, Andrew Pike, Jared Love and James Mead, the top 15. Jared will score points, James will not. And Milton Tomlinson Dennis, sadly for him, goes from bad to worse, missing last week, failing to finish this week. He's got 4 podiums to his name, including 3 second places this season, but sadly for him on this occasion, it's not meant to be. He's got 2 more bites at it to see if he can have some more strong results to cement his place toward the top of the championship.
Over then we go to the Pro class, in where Bobby Moss came out as the winner for TSRC. Good night for them. overall. Hayden Ahmed, he finished P1 in his last race, finishes P2 this time by, meaning that chaps have finished in the top 2 in each of the last 3 races. Max Wheeler rounds out the podium for the UKSR team before a bit of a gap back to John Breitenbach. Good result for the South African. He will be pleased, I'm sure, in his Ferrari. He just about pipped Ross Young, who finished in 5th. Jan Janczyk, consistent performances the last few weeks. See him in 6th once again, with championship leader now Chris Jennings finishing in 7th. James Paisley Knight, the second of the chaps drivers, was in 8th ahead of Darkwing's Lewis Hammond, and MRC Rebels' Jamie Bardwell, who just about finished inside the top 10 in his BMW. Wesley Van Ren, a decent result for him tonight in 11th, just in front of Simon Clifton, with James Foster in P13. The second of the Breitenbachs, Marcel, was P14 ahead of Danny Phillips, who had those issues earlier on in the race. He will have lost the championship lead, but sure he'll be frustrated with his own technology. And Adam Smith in P16, the other drivers within a minute of the race lead. David Hutchinson just outside of a minute, but he was on the lead lap at least. Sam Hockley, after the incident that wasn't his fault, finished in 18th. Adam Baker and Matt Gardner, sadly, didn't get too far into the race.
Absolutely then. So we have our 2 race victors waiting to speak to us in the interview booth. So we'll go ahead and jump a little bit further back into the middle of the race. And I think it's only fair to start with championship leader Anders Myhre on this occasion, Dara. So when you are ready, we are good to go to speak to our soon-to-be champion, I think it's safe to say.
Yeah, let's get Anders in then. After yet another win, another pole, another good display. And Anders, welcome in. First of all, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. Thank you.
Good stuff, Anders. Welcome back into the booth, of course, becoming a familiar name. Speaking to us after the races, always good to get your perspective, mate. A very clean showing out there tonight. Not too many challenges for you, but just talk us through the setup particularly, because we've had that as a talking point. Are you getting a little bit more comfortable with the car? Looked like you enjoyed it out there again tonight.
Yeah, it's a bit mixed. The car was really difficult to drive when you tried to push and go for the fast laps, so I struggled in qualifying again. But it was a lot better in the races when I could, fuel save and save a bit more through all the corners. It was a bit easier. I sacrificed a bit in the bus stop every lap, because that's the most difficult part with the car, because with the setup I was running 0 wing, so 3 or 4 less wing than I had at Le Mans. But that's all the Ferrari setups had, because yes, for some reason it struggles in the straight line on this track. So I had a moment with I think it was lap 31 or something in the bus stop, where I almost went into the wall, but otherwise it was a pretty safe run. I was really lucky that the guys were fighting so hard on lap 1. If they hadn't done that, I think Kieran would be on my bumper the whole race. But yeah, you need a bit of luck every now and then.
Yeah, and sorry to cut you up here, Dara, but I just want to reference that there, Anders, because you said you made that mistake. We were actually riding on board with you for the first time in the session, and we were saying how Kieran's not really going to be able to do anything unless Anders makes a mistake. And then you headed through the bus stop, and it nearly went wrong. But obviously, I'm sure in the cockpit you said, right, let's just steady it now and make sure that we bring it home.
Yeah, so it was your fault. Okay.
Yeah, well, hey, it could be.
Nah, yeah, of course that was not a good moment. I don't know. It felt like iRacing still thought I was behind the left car and that I had dirty air or something. I don't know. The car just snapped, like it has done sometimes when I'm doing quick laps. But at that time I was fuel saving and everything, so I don't know what happened. But I tried the next lap to build confidence again and go for a pretty fast lap, and it worked out. So yeah, you need to have that moment and just put it behind you as soon as you can. But yeah, I was afraid I was going to have a lot more of those through the race. At least that's how the car has been every time I tried to push, and obviously when I practice I tried to push. So I wasn't sure what to expect going into this. Like I said in the chat, I've been using this week to try to figure out what car to use for another league I've signed up to, and I felt like the Ferrari was the most difficult car to drive out of those I tested. So I was a bit afraid of the Fords and the Lambos this week, but luckily I managed to have enough pace to keep them away.
I mean, for you, Anders, it was a pretty calm race at the front of the field. You had a couple of cars to lap, of course. How did the weather settings in terms of us being at night change how the race felt, particularly in qualifying and at the start? Does it make it a little bit harder, particularly when you're spotting back markers, to try and pick up where their lines are?
Yeah, the racing itself is okay. It's more like the sense of speed that gets a bit different. So when I was preparing for the race, I was running in the qualifying time, so I had a bit of daylight left, and I tried one session in the dark, and I immediately lost like a couple of tenths just by going in the dark. I know that's a weakness of mine, so I should maybe have practiced more, but it didn't feel too bad when the race started. I don't think the pace dropped anything any more than it would, because the mindset and the head goes into a different mode when it's racing than when it's practicing on your own, at least for me. So I don't think that made too much of a difference today, but obviously it's a different challenge. But it can be harder as a backmarker as well to spot how far behind the car is, because the only thing you see is lights. So the backmarkers were phenomenal today, and yeah, it all worked out.
Anders, in that moment there, I'm not sure if you've got any maths in your mind. I never like to jump the gun. We've done it before and we've been wrong. But I think you might have a big enough gap to be more than 200 points clear of Brandon in second. And I would imagine anyone further behind him probably isn't going to be able to catch up. So if you haven't won the championship already, I apologise that I'm not giving you concrete numbers here, but you probably need to score some points next week. So good for you, mate. It's been 8 weeks of an incredible outing, right, on track. And it looks like, if not already done, you're just around the corner, which I'm sure you were aware of anyway. But yeah, 2 rounds to go, nearly in the bag. 2 fun tracks coming up, of course, back to more traditional layouts around the Red Bull Ring and Suzuka. So yeah, give us your thoughts and how you're feeling coming into the final 2 rounds.
Yeah, I think I had to be top 5 today, if I'm not mistaken. So I think the championship is safe, but
good.
As always, I'm gonna give it my all for the next rounds. I hope that the updates have fixed the differential on the Ferrari, because that has like a one-wheel burnout out of turn 3 on Red Bull Ring all the time. So I hope that is fixed. If not, I have to find out how to make that corner without the one-wheel burnout. But I'm looking forward to the tracks. I like those tracks more than Daytona. Not necessarily faster, but it's just tracks that I enjoy more my type of tracks. And just gonna enjoy the last couple of races, do the best I can. I'm always in the races to try and win, so that's what we are aiming for every time. So really looking forward to the final 2 rounds.
Good stuff, mate. I'm glad you'll still be here with us, and yeah, as I said, I'm pretty confident that you have secured the championship, so congratulations from me once again. And we'll speak to you next week if you have another good result, and we can fill in on how you feel as we get toward the end of the season. So as always, Anders, it's a pleasure to have you in the booth. Another good result. Congratulations. I'm sure you'll enjoy the weekend. If there's anybody that you'd like to shout out before we let you go, you can go ahead and do that now.
I'll give a shout out to Racing Sport. There's has been some change in leadership there now, so it's exciting times ahead. See how it will go on. And shout out to the league organizers. Really enjoyed racing in this league so far, and I'm sure it's going to be really good in the final 2 races. And thanks to you guys for the broadcast as well.
Awesome, Anders. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great to get away from Anders Myhre after another dominant win, and good to see his perspective from the front of the field. But he wasn't the only winner tonight, was he, Joe? We had a winner in the pro class as well, and that man was Bobby Moss, who should join us now. Welcome in, Bobby. Can you hear us, first of all?
Yeah, just talk amongst yourselves for like 1 minute. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. That's no problem. We'll talk about Anders. No problem by me, Dara. Like I said there, we did the maths,
Just
and
give me 2 minutes.
he gave 100 points, net 100 points, of course, from the race victory. Brandon Dyer only gained 60, and that gap is more than 200 points, which is all that we have up for grabs. So just quick maths suggests that he has seen it out. It's a shame that I didn't have that ready, actually, because I would have liked to have presented him with that, but oh well, we'll do it next week because he plans to be here, which is no problem at all. So yeah, another champion settled, it seems, and things heating up in the teams championship as well. Good results for Phillips, for Stitchbury, and for the TSRC team, of course, which we will soon speak to once Bobby joins us back in the booth. I think, Dara, he might be ready to go.
Yeah, let's give it a go again. Bobby, welcome.
My apologies. My apologies, lads.
You're good. You're good.
I was getting back from the shop there, getting some celebratory beers.
There's no way you've been to the shop since you pulled into the pit lane. Really, you must live around the corner.
It's only around the corner, mate. Yeah, I was brilliant. I need a beer, so I'm brilliant.
Very good, mate. Very good. Well, that is a good way to celebrate. Pop the top off and give it a little spray around the room as well, if you'd like. While
Yeah,
you're at
the
it.
wife will be loving that, mate.
Yeah, I'm sure she would, mate. I'm sure she would. So you can talk us through that, mate, because it wasn't as straightforward as what we saw in the elite class. Anders was sort of running the pace, running the field at the front, but you had a big mix. First of all, let's go back to qualifying, right? Because I don't think we've seen a closer top 5 between you guys. I think it was 8/100th of a second at the end of qualifying, which, I mean, how does that go down mentally when you're so close to pole position but you're not quite there? You know, thinking about all of you guys, and then how that makes you think about the race, because you were so competitive with one another.
Wild, eh? I don't know where I would have been with that double toe from Pike and Sharpie there, but yeah, there's one. I think 2 laps before I put it on the pole for pro, I was like maybe half a tenth up, and it moved me 3 spots up. So yeah, it was really close. I was surprised to be on pole, but very nice.
I mean, for you, it was a good battle all the way through the race. I mean, how was it, lap after lap, going to turn 1, having to battle with, well, it was multiple guys. Max was in there, Hayden was in there. Of course, we had our championship leader in there at times as well. Did you ever really feel safe at the front of the field?
No, mate, no. It's hard to think like, I don't want to lift and coast too much because then someone's going to sneak in the side of me. But then I don't want to go in too hot. I'm trying to fuel save, but hold position at the same time. So that was really tough. T1, like every single lap. And then I went through the bus stop with Danny a few times there, which I'm sure you'll come to in a moment. That was really tough, pretty scary. The whole race was great, mate. Really enjoyed it. Great battling all the way through. So.
Yeah, it looked very, very good, very exciting, competitive up here, watching down, and of course, you must have got a big buzz when not for the misfortune of Phillips, of course, but when the championship leader heads off the track, you know there's an opportunity there, and there was many people who it could have been, of course, who had that close battle with Hayden. Max wasn't too far behind either for large portions of that race, and then in the end, you were the one who took the checkered flag first, managed to do that defense, of course, and managed the elite traffic as well, which is always a little bit tricky when you're in the hot seat, in the pressured seats toward the front of the class, and yeah, in the end, mate, you've pulled it off.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, so it was tricky at the end there. I had Joris in between me and Hayden. I thought I didn't think I was going to get a chance at Hayden there, but luckily I did. Good battling with him at the end, and Danny. It was exciting to go through side by side the bus stop a couple of times. I'm glad it was him that spun, not me, but I don't want to see anyone spinning like that. It was really great battling him.
And it might.
Shame. I mean, it works out well for the championship, but you don't want to be getting closer because of things like that. You just want to do it on track,
Yeah, and I was going to say, between the 3 TSRC cars in this division, you've all scored very, very highly indeed, and it's a bit of a shame for Craig, isn't it, that he gets on the podium and his points don't even contribute in the team standing. It's yourself, of course, bringing home maximum points, and Kieran points good enough for second, so 190 added to your tally in your hunt to get into the top 5, and I think that will probably be enough to see you there. Theoretically, you would pass the DXC cars, the DXC Cyan team as well, but I'm not sure what they've scored. Most of them are down in Split B, but you might look at the standings this time next week, and you'll be up there in the top 5 with just 2 weeks to go. That must give you a little bit of an added boost.
Oh yeah, mate. I mean, I don't really know how the championship points for the teams work there, so that's nice. That's nice to know. Look forward to the last 2 rounds. We'll see what happens. See if I can do anything else. Get another win or something. But I just want to apologise to my beloved Porsche. I shouldn't have cheated on it, especially for as long as I did this season. I'm sorry. I missed you.
Well, apologies sincerely accepted, I'm sure. From us up here as well. It's a great car that is overlooked, of course. The McLaren's been the dominant one, but I'm not sure if you were here a few seasons ago, Bobby, but it used to be Porsche Central around these parts, and now it's slowly drifted towards the McLaren, so it's good to see a few, if just two, I think, or maybe even just you out there, in fact, in the Porsche tonight.
Yeah, I think
it's
so.
normally just the sole... Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, I thought I'd just try a new car this season and obviously regret it. But then I seen, I don't know his name, but there's a guy racing on the Sunday and he's always leading in the Porsche. And I kept thinking, why have I changed the car that like I really enjoy driving? And obviously back in it today, P1. Fantastic.
Good. Yeah, fantastic. Good stuff, mate. Well, yeah, awesome to speak to you. I don't think we've had you in the booth. Apologies if I forgot that, but I'm not sure if we have. So, awesome. Yeah, mate, exactly. Awesome to speak to you. Good. Best of luck in the rest of the races. And final question from the last two: we've got the Red Bull Ring and Suzuka. Do any of those take your fancy?
Yeah, I love Red Bull Ring. Really love Red Bull Ring. And then Suzuka last season in the Superstars, I probably had like my best ever race there. I enjoyed it so much. So yeah, hopefully do well at both of them.
All right then, so we can keep our eyes out for the 255 Porsche. Might be making a late challenge in the pro class to score some good points. So good stuff, Danny. Not Danny. Good stuff, Bobby. And before we let you go, we always like to give people a chance to give a shout out. So if there's anyone that you'd like to mention before we let you go, then you can go ahead and do that now.
Yeah, all my great friends at TSRC. I really enjoy hanging out with all the boys there. And of course, my beautiful wife and son and the bum that we can't wait to meet. Love you all. And you guys, thanks a lot.
Good stuff, Bobby. Very good. Nice to speak to you. Enjoy that win. Enjoy the weekend. And we'll probably catch you next week.
Yeah, I'm going to get into those beers now, boys.
Enjoy. Mate. Enjoy.
Yeah.
See ya.
Cheers. All the best.
You too.
Thanks, Bobby. Bobby Morse there. Good to get a word from him. After what was a fantastic race evening for him, and I can't believe there's only 2 weeks to go, Joe.
I know, we're flying through the season. As things stand, of course, we've got 2 weeks to go, as you rightly said. We've got the Red Bull Ring and then that season finale at Suzuka. Sounds like Bobby is pretty confident in his abilities around those two tracks, so let's see if he can make a last gasp effort and climb a little bit higher up that order. Of course, he's only 5 points behind P3 coming into tonight, so he's definitely claimed a little bit back there, and then he's going to be potentially in a chance at the championship, a very outside chance at the championship, but still within the 100-point difference potentially between himself and what should be Chris Jennings by the time things get updated. So definitely not off the cards for him. That will be his third podium of the season, his first win of the season. So he's been just as consistent as everybody else, but he's gone about it very quietly. And wouldn't that be a story to shake up the championship if in the end it doesn't go in the way of Danny Phillips or Chris Jennings and we have a late change? That's all to come, of course, over the next 2 weeks worth of racing. So be sure to continue to join us here on Thursday evenings so you can keep up with everything that's going on in the Pro Class, getting very intense indeed. Our other two splits, the Prem and the Evo, are down there with Paul Walsh in B split. Same time, same place every Thursday night. We have the Friday evening GT Championship, which is continuing underway tomorrow evening for, I think it's second round of their season. Every Sunday we have the GT3 UKSR Showdown, which is deep into its season as well. The second round of the Transatlantic Trophy arrives in Miami after the opening round in around the Indianapolis Speedway 2 Wednesdays ago. So Wednesday night coming, we're into the second round, and then of course we have our 3 practice sessions each and every week. So thanks to everyone for joining us once again. Very much looking forward to the final doubleheader that we have on the cards before we look ahead to season 14. We've got plenty of questions that are left to be answered over the next 2 weeks. I'm glad, well, I hope that you've all enjoyed this one. We certainly have. And yeah, we hope that we see you back this time next week. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll catch you all very soon indeed.